You know, it's a pretty special moment to be able to hold this prototype box, this very first original prototype, and film going from this to what it became to all the expansions going forward. So to everyone at the Thundergryph team, thank you so much for such an incredible opportunity. I am incredibly excited today to talk about Tang Garden and all of its expansions. For everyone new to the game, I'm going to show you some quick gameplay, just the gist of what Tang Garden is and how it plays a little bit, and then we'll dive into like the highlights of each expansion going from Golden Age to Ghost Stories all the way to Seasons. We'll talk about that as well. If you're interested and want to know more details about any parts of the game, I will leave links to the Kickstarter down below. Let me show you how to play Tang Garden. Now in this game, you are an engineer in the Tang Dynasty who has been summoned to build the most beautiful garden, and you'll also be decorating the garden with pavilions, birds, bridges, fish, and a bunch of other items. Now while you're building, different characters are going to come visit your garden and admire all of the work that you've done. Your goal is to be the player with the most coins by the end of the game. Now, on your turn, you have two actions to choose from. The first action is to build. So on the board, you'll notice here that you have 4 different landscapes that you can choose from in order to build. In this 3-player setup, I'm playing here as the poet. And as the poet, I'm gonna build one of these landscapes. So my poet actually likes to choose water, because you notice here that on these character cards, she starts off with advancing in the water track. And she'll also score you coins for each water landscape that you build. This is the top action shown here. And the bottom action is the line of sight action that we'll talk about in a little bit. So knowing that, I want to build a water landscape, and I'm going to choose one of the face up tiles from the board. So I'm going to take this one. You notice here how the rest are going to be face down for now. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to place it right over here next to this pavilion. So each tile has to match it with adjacent terrain that's already on the board. And when you place a tile, there are different effects that can occur. For instance, for this one, I'm matching up this water tile with another water terrain here, which means I can advance on my water track. So on my player board, let me zoom back out. On my player board, you notice here I'll have the blue cube. So I can now move this to the right 1 space because I just matched up the water tile from here to here. So you notice here that this footpath is matching with this footpath, which means I can also score 1 coin. And as you remember, most coins by the end of the game is the winner. So I'll take 1 coin. So you notice here, as you move cubes along the player board, you'll have access to influence different characters. You'll unlock 2 coins when you reach this stage and even 5 coins by the time you reach the end. And you also have different lantern abilities. Now these are all optional actions that you can choose. All you do is take this coin and then flip it over to the other side. That means you have exhausted this action for now. So with these lantern abilities, I have one where I can take a double build garden action. The second one allows you to place 2 decorations at once. Number 3 allows you to move a character on the board because once you place a character, they're actually stuck in that spot. And lastly, when you are influencing characters, you can actually choose a specific character from the deck instead of just the ones that are listed on the board. So that is one main action, which is to take a garden tile, place it on the board, and that activates different effects depending on how you lined it up with different parts of the terrain. And the lantern abilities are all optional, except you can only use them once per turn. Now, when you build, you'll also notice here that along the board here in this kind of diamond shape, you have these landscape tokens, and there are 2 different types. You have your big landscape tokens, which are on the outside edges of the board, and you have your small landscape tokens, which are on kind of the inner side of the board. When you build on top of these landscapes, you're actually gonna take one of the corresponding landscape tiles and then place them along the edges of the board. So let's say I just built over the large landscape token on this edge right here. So I'm gonna take one of these 2 piles, and I'm gonna take this and place it along. You'll notice how they have these slots all along the board. I'm gonna take it and place it, let's say I'll place this one over here. And the reason why is because if I was playing as a monk character, he scores more points as he's looking across this line of sight in this direction. And as he's looking this way, this temple, or like this landscape, has a temple icon on the top left corner, which means I'll score more bonus points at the end of the game. Now the last thing I want to mention about this build action is that also you'll have these tiles. There are 3 special unique tiles in the game. This tile right here means that you can build it along any edge. So the rock temple allows me to score 1 coin plus a bonus coin for each rock terrain that I've closed off. Now you'll also notice here that I have a ton of 3D terrain on the left side of the board. This is all part of your second action called place a decoration, because you'll notice that some of the tiles have some symbols on here, which allows you to place different parts of a terrain. So if I wanted to place a decoration, I'm gonna draw 1, 2 cards, and then I'm gonna take an extra card for each face down tile that's on the board. In this case, I have only 1 face down tile because of this water landscape. So I'm gonna take 3 cards in total. And out of those 3 cards that I've just drawn, I can take one of them and then place a decoration. So let's say I wanted to place a pavilion. On the top right corner, it'll list the icon of where you can exactly place this pavilion. So in this case, I'm looking for this one, which is located right here. So I can take a pavilion and then place it just like that. Some other examples, let's say I wanted to place a tree instead. This is the wisteria. So if I wanted to place this one, I would have to place it on this plant symbol. So I'll take this and place it on one of these tiles over here. As a third example, let's say I wanted to place some fish. This can only be placed on a water tile. So I can take the fish and place them in a pond just like that. Now you may be wondering, why do you want to place decorations to begin with? Well, they're actually going to give you different bonuses at the end of the game as well. So for example, let's say I place fish and birds together. This combo gives me 6 coins at the end of the game. You also notice here at the top right corner of birds that it will also allow me to advance one time on the rock track as well. So some cards will also give you unique one-time bonuses on the top right corner. As you advance along your player board, you'll have different spots where you can influence different characters because you have people visiting your garden and admiring the work that you've done. So as you do so, they're gonna give you unique abilities. So for example, the sword dancer here, her ongoing ability gives you 1 coin every time a player builds on a landscape token. And her line of sight scores you 2 extra coins at the end of the game for every waterfall that she is facing. So for instance, this landscape has a waterfall token here. So if she was already on the board, let's place her here on the bridge instead. We'll have her face here, and this will be faced over here, which means she'll be able to score extra points because she's facing this particular landscape since it has the waterfall token icon. The bottom line, Tang Garden is a tile placement game where you're gonna take different tiles on the board, and as you lay them out, it's gonna trigger different effects depending on how you lay them out and when you do so, and how they also work in conjunction with different character abilities as well. That is the base game of Tang Garden. So if you have played this game, let me know in the comments below what you think about it so far. Now let's go ahead and dive into the first expansion, Golden Age. Okay, Golden Age adds 6 scenarios to the game, and you can pick which one you play by rolling this scenario die. Now these scenarios are going to give you a specific setup from the types of tiles being used, to the decorations, which characters that will be in play, lantern abilities, and any special conditions that you have to follow. Golden Age is also going to add this new bamboo tile, which is ultimately a stronger form of the basic game special garden tiles, because not only can you place this adjacent to any terrain, but you can also score an additional coin regardless of that type. Now this expansion also adds 5 new decorations like the butterfly, allowing you to refresh your lanterns, the duck letting you advance twice on your player board, and the last 3 lets you gain 7 coins right away, but it does make you lose a coin for each additional one of them being played. So if I were to play the bonsai tree, I would gain 7 coins right away, but if these 2 are already out on the board, then I'm gonna lose 2 coins because of that. There are 2 new lanterns. One of them lets you exchange your character out with another, and the second one allows you to draw 5 garden tiles at once, but you can only place 1. And lastly, there are 8 new characters for you to play with, like the musician, who gives you both coins and track advancement if you match footpaths. There's a gardener who rewards you for planting more trees, and the emissary, which allows you to refresh your lanterns more easily. So if you already enjoy the base game and you want more of what that has to offer along with some scenarios, then Golden Age might be a good fit for you. But if you want something a bit more moodier, if you want something that has way more player interaction, then let's dive into the second expansion, Ghost Stories. Now this is the Desolate Land. This is the first landscape that gives you absolutely no rewards at all. But contrary to that is the Phoenix, which will give you any bonus for your characters. The third one, the Ghost Village, acts as a substitute, which allows you to replace a landscape that's already in play with the Ghost Village. Now with Golden Age adding in the bamboo tile, Ghost Stories adds in another one. This is the Haunted Temple. Now the Haunted Temple gives you a coin and track advancement for each adjacent footpath. Now there are also 4 new scenarios and another scenario die being added to this game as well. One scenario in particular is called the Imperial Palace. Now you'll be able to build your own 2x2 mini palace, and every time you lay out one of these tiles, you'll actually get to advance on one of these new spirit animal boards, which gives you a unique bonus like the green turtle will reward you for each bridge icon that you have. So you can advance on the spirit, or you can also discard the tile in order to advance on an adjacent spirit. Ultimately, these spirit animals will give all players access to different ways to score by the end of the game. Now you also have 2 new decorations. One is the Spectral Tree, which blocks characters' line of sight, and the Cat, which specifically cancels the effects of the Demon. Now the Demon is 1 out of 4 characters being added to Ghost Stories. Now the Demon is unlike any other character that you have seen so far in the game. Once you infest the garden with the Demon, every character on the board is going to lose 1 coin, and if the character is in his line of sight, you're going to end up losing 3 coins instead. One way to cancel that effect is if you have a cat decoration. Now you also have the Fox Spirit, who copies skills, the Medium, letting you profit every time a player uses a lantern, and the Soldier, who now gets rid of decorations. Now that, my friends, is the Moodier expansion, the Ghost Stories expansion. So with that, we now have covered the base game, Golden Age, Ghost Stories, and that leads us to the last chapter of Tang Garden, and that is Seasons. Okay, so the prototype that I have today comes with 4 modules, which is going to be one for every season. But there are actually more components, modules, and a bunch of other things that I highly invite you check the Kickstarter link down below in order to find out more details about. But we're gonna go over 4 of them today, starting first with Summer. Now again, because this is a prototype, please note that the rules and the components are a work in progress. Now in Summer, you have now a co-op mode, which can be played solo as well, but this is the new Summer Central tile that starts off the game, and there are also these supervisor tokens that go right here. You also have new decorations called viewpoints that are going to replace the pavilions, and then there are these request markers, request tiles, and approval tokens that are added to the setup. Now the goal of Summer is to fulfill the Emperor's and the Lady's wishes. And to do that, you have to work all together as one unified team. However, you are gonna meet some supervisors that are going to watch over what you're doing this time. Now that means when you place a new tile on the board, it has to be placed orthogonally or diagonally adjacent to one supervisor, and they can't be placed on request tiles or markers. Now that's gonna present a problem, and to counter that, you have these new optional actions that actually let you either move or ignore supervisors, and also swap out the request tiles. Now, if you spend coins, they can only come from the active player's supply, and you all win together if you complete all the requests, and you can also complete a request by meeting its condition. Like here, it says you have to have 4 rock garden tiles connected, or this one having you place 4 trees of any type. Now, in general, I love summer. It's my favorite season of all time. But the sun, unfortunately, doesn't last forever, and soon, leaves are gonna start falling. That is when we transition on over to autumn. In this season, it has you add in 2 new decorations. You have the Kingfisher and the Bamboo. Both decorations will double count for different icons. So the Kingfisher counts as both a fish or bird, and the Bamboo counts as a peony or a lotus. Now along with that, you also have this new donation board, which attacks directly above your player board. You also get your own scoring bag and a general donation bag that goes in the center. Every time you place a garden tile onto a location that has a leaf on it, you have a choice. You can either donate that leaf to the general donation bag and advance your cube along the donation board, or in turn you can also score that in your own bag. Now when you place the leaf in your own bag, it will give you different bonuses at the end of the game. Now once the leaves stop falling, and instead comes the snow, or if you're in SoCal, actually there's no snow at all. Here we don't even have weather. We don't even know what weather means. But in other much cooler, pun intended, places, snow does fall. And here comes winter. Now, since it's colder now, your goal in winter is to expand the palace and protect yourselves from the cold. The backside of the summer tile is gonna show the center roof tile. Now you'll also add on these L-shaped tiles in order to build the roof. You'll also add on these dragon discs, which go into the corners, and these are new roof decorations. So once these roof tiles are revealed in one of the 4 stacks, you actually place them on an empty location in the middle of the board, gaining you that listed bonus. Now, since the garden is smaller now, it's kind of hard to place decorations, so these dragons are going to be used to reserve places for you to decorate. Now, as you've seen the trend go on here for Tang Garden, once you add in the dragons, it also gave you different scoring conditions at the end of the game as well. And lastly, we now have come full circle. Once the snow starts melting and the flowers start blooming, here we are in the final season, spring. In spring, you have a new lantern festival where one of these lanterns are placed into a red envelope, and landscapes are then replaced with nocturnal landscapes. Now, the point of this season is for your characters to see as many lanterns as possible. These lanterns are placed as normal decorations, but every time you add a lantern, a secret number of coins are going to be added to the envelope. Whoever has the highest amount of different lanterns will get all coins that were added to this envelope during gameplay. So that is a new mechanic being added to seasons as well, which is the bidding mechanic. After players place a lantern, they're going to be allowed to bid using these scoring pads. Players are now going to bet to gain one of these rewards after someone has played a lantern, and if you win the bid, then you also get to gain that reward that you were bidding for. And that is the final chapter of Tang Garden's season. So that is everything that we've covered: the base game, Ghost Stories, Golden Age, and now season. So I hope you all enjoyed today's comprehensive, cumulative video. As always, thank you so much for being here. Hope you enjoyed the intro cinematic. And with that, have a wonderful time building out your beautiful garden.